I think, first of all, I'd like to start by saying, with the memorial yesterday for Coach Leach, that our thoughts and prayers are with his family. Coach Leach was a innovator in our sport and a unique presence, to say the least. And loved my time I got to spend with him. We spent some years in Washington as rivals, but we've always crossed paths, and I know he'll be dearly missed in the sport of football, most notably in college football, and he had definitely had a big impact on a lot of people. And so tough loss for our sport, and like I said, our thoughts and prayers with his family and his players. As far as signing day goes, thought that this is always the hard part. Every coach gets up and says, "Man, we signed the best class in the country and whatnot." But we feel really good about the class we signed, and I thought we addressed a lot of the needs that we felt like we had, but also kind of addressed the progress of our program and where we wanted to head from a standpoint of. We felt like we needed to really solidify the linebacker position, and I thought we did that really well in this class. I thought we, recruited 2 really good runners, got a quarterback, got 2 good receivers, got 3 really good DBs, got big up front on the O&D line again, got 2 good tight ends, and so from a balance standpoint, I thought the class definitely did that, and proud of the work that everybody did, our coaches, our staff did to make this thing come to life. I don't think we're quite done yet, but we've got 23 new kids in this class, 13 of which will be mid-years. I believe the number's 13 right now. So that'll be great to get those guys here in January. The rest will be here in June. But in the end, it's a really good class, one that we're proud of, and one that we think we're bringing in a lot of players that are winners. You look at this class, a lot of these guys were state champions either this year or last year in their junior year. Guys have won a lot of football games, come from great programs, and I think we'll continue to kind of infuse into our culture this winning mentality that we're not just here to make it here. We're here to try to go win a championship while we're here, and I think that these guys would continue to do that. So with that, we'll open it up.
Right. Take some questions. Start with Joe up front.
With the quarterback, called the most important position in sports.
Yeah.
After the top guy, just your thoughts on Arch as a prospect and the whole process of dealing with the Manning family communicating with him.
Yeah, signing Arch Manning, I think was big on a lot of fronts. One, let's just talk about the player. I think he's extremely gifted. He's got all the attributes needed to be a really good quarterback. He's 6'4", 225. He's got a great arm. He's a good athlete. He's got really good fundamentals. There's not a throw he can't make. He can make the off-platform throws. He comes from a really good program at Newman. He's got the desire, the competitiveness, the work ethic needed to be great at the position. And it's been a long haul. I started recruiting him 3 years ago, almost 4 now, 3.5 years ago. But since the day I got here, that process continued. So we've been recruiting him for 2 years since I've been here. And it's a real credit to Terry Joseph and A.J. Milwee and the work that they did as well. And the process was really simple with the family. Remove the name off the back of his jersey, the Manning name. They're great people, and they were awesome to work with. They support their son. They support their nephew. They support their grandson. They're just like any other family that wants what's best for him. And I think that, like all these kids, I thought we did a really nice job of developing a really good relationship with them and a really good relationship with Arch. I thought that, I say it all the time, trust equals time plus consistency. I thought that we were very consistent in the process. We were really transparent in the process with them. and in turn, they were with us. And when he committed to us, was actually a little earlier than maybe we were anticipating in the process in the summer, but we took it. We were excited about it, and I think there was a direct impact on the rest of the class. I think there was a lot of other players in this class that thought, man, if the number one player in the country is going to Texas and believes in what they're doing, that's a pretty good destination for me too. And in the end, he's a guy that you guys will get to know is not somebody that wants to be out in the forefront all the time, likes to be behind the scenes and go to work. And I appreciate that about him. It's not about his name, as I've said before. It's about who he is innately inside. And, fired up to get him here in a couple weeks and get to work.
On your right, Anwar.
Coach, obviously we know you've been great at recruiting, and we know you always did great on the offensive side of the ball. But this recruiting cycle, very good on the defensive side of the ball. You get one of the top linebackers in the country, top DBs. It seemed like, so talk about just PK, what those guys were able to do over there, and recruiting on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I think on a couple fronts here. I think one, I'd like to brag on our defensive staff a little bit. I thought those guys did a great job developing relationships with the players on the defensive side of the ball in this class. And you start talking about getting a Derek Williams out of Louisiana, in my opinion, the top safety in the country. That's Terry Joseph, that's Blake Gideon. You start talking about a Malik Muhammad at corner, that's Terry Joseph, that's Chris Gilbert, that's Jeff Banks. You start talking about the 4 linebackers that we signed. Whether it was Samaje Burrell, Anthony Hill, Darian Gillette, Leonga Lafau. Jeff Choate, fantastic job. But that was a group effort on all those guys as well. You start talking about a Billy Walton, a Colton Vosick, a Sadir Mitchell. A lot of coaches, Bo Davis, PK, Kyle Flood's involved in that. So this was a group effort to make that happen. But I think in the end, the reason a lot of these guys are coming is because they saw the growth and the progress that our defense made from year 1 to year 2. And they could see the development of the players in our program and what they were doing. They could see the growth and development of just our overall defense and our style of play. That this is a great haul. When you start looking at the safety, the corner, the linebacking core, the edge position, the interior defensive lineman, every one of these guys, I'm extremely excited about because I think they're going to have a real impact in our program.
In the middle, Jeff.
Sorry, with the linebacker position specifically, off-ball linebackers, there's a lot of coaches that talk about how tough it is to recruit. Did you feel like, talk about the process of identifying these guys and filling a need in that position? It does seem like, you're converting safeties or running backs or whatever, finding guys that play the position in high school.
Yeah, I think that's to your point. Last year we struggled at that. We had a hard time identifying those guys, and this happened to be one of those years where it was a great year. Anthony Hill and Leonga Lafau came to camp with us 2 summers ago. When we had a big kind of junior camp here, when it was Arch and Jonte and Malik Muhammad, and those guys were all here. But Leonga and Anthony were here at that camp too. And so that process was well underway. We've been recruiting Leonga for a year and a half. We've been recruiting Anthony Hill for 2 straight years. And then when we start to dig into Darian Gillette, we saw that the athleticism, the versatility, the basketball highlights were like, holy cow, this guy, what a fantastic player. And then I credit Samaje Burrell because he was actually the first one to jump in the boat. And when you watch his tape, you see your prototypical off-the-ball linebacker who recognizes plays, closes on the ball, and then strikes the ball carrier and gets him on the ground. So all in all, what a fantastic group of linebackers that sometimes are, like to your point, they're hard to find. You're moving a guy who's playing edge, or you're moving a guy in high school who's maybe playing a nickel position or who's playing a safety position, and you have to train him to play off the ball linebacker. We've got 4 guys walking in the door that's what they do for a living, and we need that. That position is one that we've lost some key players, some key component players that have either moved on to go to the NFL or have decided to go elsewhere. So at that position, critical, but also on special teams, because those generally are the guys that make up your core special teams players on kickoff coverage, on punt return. And so these guys are all going to have an impact in our program, and they're all very, very good football players.
In the middle, Danny.
Steve, can I just get your thoughts on Trey and Cedric? I'm constantly wondering, philosophically, do you think freshmen can jump in and play the running back position, or is it a lot more tough to play that position than you think?
No, I think freshmen can come in and play the running back position. I've seen it done at multiple times at different stops. I'll go way back in my own career when we had Reggie and Lindell as true freshmen playing for us at SC, and the impact they had on that team, to most recently to what Bijan did as a true freshman here just a couple of years ago, and then everything in between. And so we always try to find, we don't want the same runner every year. We're always trying to find, if we're going to take two, how do they balance each other out? And obviously, Baxter is a big physical runner. He's all of 6'1", 220 pounds, if not more, and he may be a little taller than that now. He's a guy who's young in age. He's going to be 17 years old here showing up, but it's going to be a big physical back, one that we're used to having in our system. And then you complement that with a Trey Wisner, a guy who is a very versatile back. We saw in the state championship game had over 200 yards of all-purpose yardage, whether it was receiving, running, playing in the slot, lining up in the backfield. And so that complementary look of those two guys to fit into our system, I think, is really important to our own style of play.
On your left, Chip.
Steve, there's been a lot of talk, speculation about Arch possibly redshirting. Can you talk about where your quarterback room is? Are you comfortable going into next season with Quinn and Malik or that room, or do you need to bring anyone?
Yeah, I don't worry about redshirting right now. The way the rules are set up in college football nowadays, with you get to play 4 games first of all before you even have to, if you want to decide to redshirt or not. And then now the NCAA is granting a waiver to basically anybody can play in a bowl game, so guys are getting a 5th game to play out of your 13. You're closing on half the season right now. So I'm not worried about redshirting. I'm worried about development, and we'll deal with that when the time comes. I think we've got a really talented room with Quinn, Malik, Charles, Arch. You always want to have 4 quarterbacks on scholarship. We may not be as young, as old as some other rooms, but we're very talented. And so now that's the job that we have as a staff, Coach Milwee, myself, and the rest of the offensive staff, to develop these guys, to put them in position to perform when their number's called. And in this day and age of college football nowadays with the transfer portal, I don't know how many times you're going to have your junior, senior type backup quarterback on your roster. They're either playing for you or they're probably going to be somewhere else, and that's okay. That's the nature of the world that we're in right now. So we better get used to developing young quarterbacks, because that's probably the world we're going to be living in here in the future.
Middle, Joe.
You obviously want to recruit Texas on the Metroplex in various areas, but with Terry Joseph on staff, how much does it help that he can use his Louisiana connections to help you get guys like Derek Williams and Archie?
Well, I think it's big. Clearly, we make our hay in the great state of Texas, and majority of our class and classes to come in the future will be from the state of Texas. But when you think about Louisiana kind of being that extension of East Texas, and to go into Louisiana, in our opinion, sign the top offensive player and the top defensive player out of Louisiana, that's a heck of a haul for us. And Terry Joseph does a fantastic job in Louisiana. He's got great connections. He's got great rapport with the players and their families and the high school coaches. And, I don't think this is the end for us. I think that's going to be a norm for us to go into Louisiana and recruit that state.
Middle, Jeff.
Sorry, just want to get your thoughts on the NCAA when they, for this year and next year, doing away with the initial counter rules. Just don't know if that changed the approach to you and the staff and whatnot compared.
I think it does to some degree, and I think it affects more, Jeff, the transfer portal number. When you look at our class, we still only signed 23 guys right now, and 2 of those are transfers already. So you're looking at 21 high school kids on this sheet of paper. We didn't go crazy and go sign another 30 high school kids and, hey, we'll figure it out later. But I do think it affects kind of what your transfer portal looks like moving forward, depending on, hey, guys are going to be able to transfer out of our program here moving forward They're going to be able to transfer out of our program coming out of spring ball. And so now it gives us some flexibility as a staff to be able to say, hey, we've got a hole here. Now you can go fill that and deal with the number later, that you're not dealing with the initial counter. Now, I'm hopeful maybe we can get one or two more guys before the day's done. But the reality of it is, we didn't just go crazy and say, hey, we're going to oversign and we'll deal with it later. We try to stay in the parameters of what we do and what we believe in our own roster, as well as some of the newcomers we can bring in.
On your right, Anwar?
First of all, I love the sweater, man. I wish I had that sweater. I might borrow it from you. We got a Christmas party down in San Antonio with the team. I may want to wear that thing. So.
We're all glad you like Jesus. Last year, Coach, I asked you if you could give me like one of the stories. You told me about Brendan Thompson going down to Spearman and kind of being able to see those surroundings and being able to connect with him. Is there something like that you got from this year where you saw something unique or different on the recruiting trail that you could share?
Yeah, I mean, going to Hawaii was different. Going to see Leonga just because it's a long trip, and it put things into perspective for me too, for him and his family. The fact that to get to Hawaii, flying through LA and then getting there, it's 9 hours in the air. Not to mention if you have a layover, and then you get there, you drive to the North Shore, which is a little over another hour to get to Laie and to get to Kahuku High School, and then you see the impact that he has on his own community. He just had a camp. Youth camp with 350 kids over there that he put on with the community, but it has, it's his camp and something he wants to do year in and year out. So you start to see, we see the player and we see him when he's here, but then I got a chance to get into his community and see the impact that he has, the leader that he is, and what we're getting, but also the idea that, man, that guy's flying that far. He wanted to come to Austin, Texas. He wanted to come to University of Texas. He wanted to play for our coaches. I think just shows what we're building here, that he was willing to fly that far to come here, even for that camp 2 summers ago, because this was a place he wanted to come. And his mom, his dad were committed to it and believed in it. And in the end, the appreciation I have for, man, we've got a huge brand. I mean, this logo means a lot, and it's not just here in the great state of Texas. It carries a lot of weight around the country, and it carried a lot of weight all the way on the North Shore of Hawaii. And in the end, we got a great player, in our opinion, the best player in the state of Hawaii, and someone that we're fired up to have on board with us.
Your left, Chip?
Steve, you mentioned Derek Williams is the best safety in the country. Can you just talk about him, what stands out, what attracted you to him, and his mindset on the field?
Yeah, I remember watching his tape and thinking to myself, man, this guy's got a chance to be a first-round draft pick. The versatility that he provides. He's got great range, great sudden movements, good speed, can play the ball, will strike the ball carrier, can go play wildcat quarterback, can go play running back. He literally can do everything. And then in the end, I go out there a couple weeks ago to do my home visit, and the high school coach tells me his nickname is the Raptor. I thought that was the coolest nickname I've heard of a player in high school. So we are. I've loved Derek since day one, and we've been relentless in the recruiting process because of that versatility. I think this guy can come into our program and do a lot of different things, and we'll see what he can do really well early and put him in position to do that, and then hopefully continue to grow him into doing all of the things that we think he's capable of doing.
Middle, Danny?
Are you allowed to comment yet on the young man who just committed? I think that's announcement.
Yeah, not yet. We're waiting for
You say his name.
Hopefully by the end of the first.
I'm fired up. I don't know what you were saying, but I'm really jacked about that. So.
Going back to what you were saying earlier.
Can you see if it came through?
When it comes
Yeah.
through.
Can you check with?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
When you're recruiting kids from Hawaii, New Jersey, California, what kind of resources do you give these kids when they get on campus to make sure they're not getting homesick? And is that a concern when you are recruiting?
Yeah, I think that you start talking about recruiting kids outside of the state of Texas. You start talking about what is our culture. right? How do we facilitate our culture on a daily basis, in season, out of season, in the summer? What does that look like? And between Miss L'Oreal and I think it starts there. Our door's always open. We really have a great connection with our players. I think our assistant coaches do a great job. I think our support staff does a great job. But I think the most important piece of it is I think our locker room does a great job of really bringing these guys in, putting their arms around them, and not just rubbing their neck. We're demanding and pushing them to be the best that they can be. But in the end, when there's Thanksgiving, everybody's at the house. We're getting ready to go to a bowl game. We're going to be in San Antonio for Christmas. Our doors are open Friday. We're having a Christmas meal at our house Friday. We're having a Christmas dinner in San Diego as a team on Sunday. But that's got to be 365. That can't just be the special occasion days. We've got to make that connection with our players on a daily basis and really dig into it. And that's why I always love going into the home because I think you find out about kids, you find out about their families, you find out about why it's important. And when I can do that, then I can ask those questions to them on a daily basis. Hey, have you checked in with your mom? How's she feeling? I know she's going through something right now. And I think that goes a long way with the players, that I have that connection with them. And I don't take that lightly, because I think when a player knows you're genuinely interested in them on a personal level, then they're willing to do the things necessary from a physical standpoint. And then ultimately as a coach, man, if our players are wanting to play for me because they know I care for them, then we got something special. And I think we're building towards that every single day. And I think we felt that this year, and I think we continue to feel that as we're moving into this bowl game.
On your right, CJ?
Coach, you mentioned the importance and kind of the overall impact of assistant coaches going out of state to kind of reel in some of these guys. In the recruitment of Peyton Kirkland, where you really didn't get him on campus before the commitment, how did that process kind of play out with him and before the verbal came?
Well, I think one thing that helped, he and Cedric Baxter are very close in proximity and kind of knew each other. And so I think there was a lot of common knowledge and dialogue that went on. We lived this life in COVID where we had to recruit without getting kids on campus. And so the idea that we were able to Zoom him with all of the different facets in our program, whether it was academics, strength and conditioning, our training room, and how we support our athletes that way. They were able to Zoom with Coach Flood and dig into that aspect. We were able to show him campus virtually and go around campus. And so we lived that life through COVID. So I don't think it was really uncomfortable for anybody. Like, we were well equipped to go do that. And I think for the kids now, I think they're well equipped to understand what that looks like because they've been doing it for the previous 2 years. And so I don't think anybody felt like it was out of the norm because we had just done it for 2 straight years.
In the middle, Joe?
Offensive line class, another 5-man group.
Yeah.
Probably, do you see guys who could come in and play early, kind of like the group last year, or are these guys who may be a little bit more needing some red shirts and development in order to be ready?
Well, it's like anything. We're going to give them their shot, and there's a variety of players in here. We've got a couple really big humans, when you start talking about Andre Kojo, Peyton Kirkland, Connor Stroh, those are really big physical players. And then you look at guys that are maybe a little bit more athletic that maybe need to bulk up some, the Jaden Chapman, the Trevor Goosebys of the world. But either way, this is a really versatile group with tackles, with guards, with guys that are physical in nature, guys that are leaders on their team, guys that are players of the year on their team or in their district. High-level group. And when you think about just in general, the idea that we've signed 12 offensive linemen in the last 2 years alone, when you talk about transforming a position group, I think we've done a really good job. Coach Flood's done a great job identifying the players that we're looking for, the styles of players that we're looking for, that in 2 years we've got 12 players in our program that are going to be in their first 2 years. We've got something to build on for our future.
On your right, Anwar?
Coach, just two things. How many guys are you probably intending to take in the transfer portal? I don't know if you've worked out a number for that yet. And then the second thing was from a practice standpoint, how's practice been going?
Yeah.
Has there been any young guys that have stood out that has been able to get some opportunities?
Yeah, so from a portal standpoint, we've taken 2. Obviously, with Gavin Holmes and with Ryan Sanborn, punter and a corner. I could foresee us taking a potential of another 3 to 4 We'll see. I'm not going to just cast a line and whatever bites on it, we're going to keep it in the boat. We want to take quality players that fit a need for us, that, in my opinion, are going to help us go win a championship. And it's not about filling a number at this point. It's about really recruiting quality people, quality players. So there's not a set number that we're looking for. Is it the right fit for the right need that we have in the program? From a practice standpoint, I've been fired up about the guys. The format has gone really well. Our first 6 practices, I believe, 5 practices, were all training camp style practices where it was about fundamentals, development. It was about making sure the speed of the game was right, competing against each other, working with our young players. The last 2 practices we did on Monday and Tuesday were game plan oriented. Those were your typical Tuesday, Wednesday in-season practice where we were getting ready to go play Washington. The guys are off now for 3 days, and then we'll start back up again on Saturday with our game planning, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then we'll go play Thursday night. I think from a young player perspective, obviously Jonathan Brooks is getting more opportunities, and I think that he's showing up and excited about that. I think, Mo Blackwell's another guy who has really grown into his own now, and we saw him the second half of the season. I'm excited about what he's doing and where he's at. Malik Murphy obviously is getting more opportunities, and he's a guy that has shown more because we're seeing him more of just kind of where he's at. So just to name a few, but all the guys, in my opinion, have improved dramatically. Because for some of these guys, we haven't seen them run our stuff extensively really since training camp. We had the bye week where we worked with them, and so now to see them again, we're seeing a lot of development in a lot of the players that we have in the program right now. Jamon Tapp, another young man who really kind of stood out to me, and this guy's making some real strides.
Thank you. In the middle, Jeff?
Sark, when you talk about building this roster, kind of the way you and the organization wants it, and continuing to add depth from where you got to where you are now in year 2, going into year 3, are you where you wanted to be, or are you ahead of schedule, behind schedule? Where are you at in that trajectory?
Well, I like where we're at. When you look at last year's class, we signed 15 linemen, right? I think it was 7 O linemen and 8 D linemen or something like that when you count the edges. This year's class was very specific in the skill positions we needed to make sure we got right. The linebacking core was really important on that note. There's a style of a player that I look for at very specific positions, and I think that we are getting that. We see the size up front. That, to me, you guys know, I haven't wavered off that since day one about getting big people up front and knowing to be a championship caliber team and the teams you have to beat to go do that of controlling the line of scrimmage. But I also think you've got to be versatile enough at the second and third levels to be multiple. I don't think you can be a one-dimensional team, and I think that we got players at the linebacker position, at the safety position, at the corner position, guys that can move around and play different positions. Ultimately, at wide receiver, our numbers are not where we want to be just through natural attrition of what has occurred. So to get 2 quality players in Jonte Cook and Ryan Niblett, I think is huge for us. And then obviously addressing the need at running back has been big. Anytime you can fill those holes with really quality players like we were able to do to go along with Jaden Blue from last year, I think that we're in a good spot. Now it's how quickly can we mature as a team? I think somebody gave me a stat last week. I think our average age was like 19.3 years old or something like that. That's pretty young comparatively to some of the other teams in the country right now. So we've got to start to mature and mature rapidly.
Back by the cameras, Travis.
With all that you have going on in the month of December, do you think it still makes sense to have early signing period at this time?
Well, I think we have to. There's too many kids. I just mentioned it. 13 kids are coming mid-year for us. And so to be fair to them, I think we have to be able to put something in place that allows them to have their moment and their signing date. And it's a special day for these young men. Whether or not they go into a place to where if you're not a mid-year, you can't sign early, I don't know. But I don't know how else we do this because of now of what's going on in high schools where so many kids are graduating a semester early, and to have this mechanism to get people signed. And so, hey, if I got to work a little bit harder to sign a really good class, I'm okay with that.
In the middle, Danny?
Steve, I don't know if this matters, but you had 5 recruits win the state championship this past weekend. How important is it important to recruit winners, or how important is it?
I love that you asked me this question. It was a huge part of kind of my focus. I didn't necessarily make it known to the staff, but I think guys kind of caught on to it. I think there's something to be said about guys that know how to win. We had 5 guys, like you said, win this weekend. Leonga Lafau wins a state championship in Hawaii. The young man you were referencing won a state championship in Utah. Colton Vosick wins a state championship last couple of years at Westlake. Derek Williams wins a state championship 2 years ago last season as a junior at Westgate High School. Sadir Mitchell wins a state championship in New Jersey. So we've assembled a bunch of winners. And I think we've got a culture here that is starting to understand the importance of why we're here to win, and the idea about being competitive in everything that we do. And now we're bringing in another influx of players that is driven and focused. And so my idea is that you surround yourself with like-minded people that are winners. That should raise the level of all of us to perform to a point of, man, we're about winning. That's what we're here to do.
On your right, on your left, Chip?
Steve, there's been a lot of talk about tampering and teams trying to lure guys off of other rosters. How much of that have you personally seen, and how much re-recruiting of your own roster is been going on?
You know, I haven't seen it firsthand. My idea is this, man. We really try to forge great relationships with our players, and we try to forge them in a way and in a space where we're open, we're transparent, we're honest. And I think if it were to come up, I think our players would tell me. Maybe we scare people off with our logo. I don't know, but I haven't seen it quite as much as maybe some other schools have.
On your right, Anwar?
Coach, I know you're probably saying let's focus on today, but looking ahead to 2024, tell me preliminarily, when you start looking at the state of Texas, what do you think are some of the strengths position-wise that you guys are seeing in next year's class? And just kind of your assessment of what you're seeing, whether it's in Texas or even nationwide.
Yeah, probably a little early just to narrow it all down. I know some position groups that I think are pretty well highlighted. I think the edge position, outside linebacker edge position in our state is as strong as I can remember. I think the running back position is very strong next year in state. I think the wide receiver position is very strong next year in state. DBs for sure as well. They're all good. I mean, there's too many players in the state of Texas for it not to be good. So I'd be remiss to say not every position is, but we're got to kind of fine tune. We got to get to know the roster we have. We've already started recruiting the 24 class, but sometimes that shifts some based off what your own roster starts to look like and take shape. So we're well underway that way, but gosh, man, you just fast forwarded 365 days on me, so I just flew over a lot. I feel like I was flying to Hawaii again right there, so we'll see.